Hello everyone! The reflection questions and model answers on episode 8 will be read to you. These slides, which were used in our last sessions, will deepen your understanding of the Gospel of Mark and the mystery of the bread, as presented by Dr. Tim Gray.
Key point from Dr. Tim Gray's presentation on episode 8 of the mystery of the bread. The mystery of the bread. The Gospel of Mark weaves a narrative around the mystery of bread, drawing parallels with Israel's exodus from Egypt. Just as the Israelites were sustained by manna in the wilderness, Jesus is leading a new exodus, and a fresh manifestation of bread is required. Feeding of the 5,000. In Mark 6 verses 30 to 44, Jesus takes 5 loaves and 2 fish, blesses them, breaks them, and feeds a multitude. These verbs echo the Last Supper, foreshadowing the Eucharist. The disciples distribute the bread, and 12 baskets of leftovers signify God's abundant provision. Feeding of the 4,000. In Mark 8 verses 1 to 10, a similar miracle occurs with 7 loaves and a few fish. Again, Jesus takes, blesses, breaks, and gives the bread. 7 baskets of leftovers highlight the mission beyond Israel, to the Gentiles. Significance of the feeding. The feeding miracles anticipate the Eucharist. Jesus trains the disciples to lead and participate in the miracle of the bread. The verbs take, bless, break, give recur at the Last Supper. The 12 baskets of leftovers symbolize the regathering of the 12 tribes of Israel. Jesus is reuniting God's people, and the abundance of bread signifies divine provision. Jesus walks on water. After the feeding, Jesus sends the disciples ahead by boat. A storm arises, and Jesus walks on water to meet them. His declaration, "Take heart, I am, have no fear," echoes God's name in Exodus 3 verse 14. Jesus' presence dispels fear. His divinity is affirmed through the I am statement. Connection to the Eucharist. The feeding of the 5,000 closely ties to the Eucharist. The same verbs, take, bless, break, give, are used. The disciples learn to lead the sacrament. The abundance of bread and the leftovers point to God's overflowing provision. Baskets and mission. Jewish-style baskets, kophinos, in chapter 6, and Gentile-style baskets, spuros, in chapter 8 highlight the mission to both Jews and Gentiles. The 12 baskets signify God's regathering of Israel and the universality of salvation. Disciples' lack of understanding. Despite witnessing miracles, the disciples fail to grasp the deeper meaning. Their hearts are hardened. Mark emphasizes the theme of misunderstanding throughout his gospel.
Reflection questions with model answers. 1. What does the feeding of the 5,000 reveal about Jesus? Model answer. The feeding of the 5,000 is a remarkable event where Jesus takes a small amount of food, a mere 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and miraculously multiplies it to feed a massive crowd. This act reveals several important aspects of Jesus' character. Compassion. Jesus sees the hungry crowd and has deep compassion for them. He doesn't turn them away but desires to meet their physical needs. Divine power. By multiplying the food, Jesus demonstrates his divine authority over creation. He can bend the natural order to fulfill a greater purpose. Provider. Jesus is not only a teacher but also a provider. He cares about our physical well-being and sustenance. Foreshadowing. This miracle foreshadows the Eucharist, the Lord's Supper or communion, where Jesus will again take, bless, break, and give bread to his disciples. 2. Why is the Eucharist significant in the context of the feeding miracles? Model answer. The Eucharist holds immense significance because it connects us directly to Jesus' sacrificial love. Consider these points. Last Supper parallels. During the Last Supper, Jesus uses the same actions, taking bread, blessing it, breaking it, and giving it, to institute the Eucharist. These actions echo the feeding miracles. Spiritual nourishment. Just as Jesus physically fed the crowd, the Eucharist provides spiritual nourishment. The bread and wine represent Christ's body and blood, sustaining our souls. Unity. When we partake in the Eucharist, we join a worldwide community of believers who share in this sacred meal. It unites us across time and space. 3. What do the 12 baskets of leftovers symbolize? Model answer. After everyone had eaten, the disciples collected 12 baskets of leftovers. This number is significant. Israel's restoration. The 12 baskets represent the 12 tribes of Israel. Jesus is regathering God's people, fulfilling ancient promises. Abundance. The surplus of food emphasizes God's abundant provision. It's not just enough, it's overflowing. God's grace exceeds our needs. 4. How does Jesus walking on water relate to courage and faith? Model answer. Imagine a stormy sea, waves crashing against a boat. Jesus walks on water toward his frightened disciples. His words, "Take heart, I am, have no fear," reveal profound truths. Divine presence. Jesus' declaration, "I am," echoes God's name from Exodus 3 verse 14. He is God incarnate. His presence dispels fear. Courage. When we focus on Jesus, fear dissipates. Trusting in him gives us courage to face life's storms. He is with us. 5. Why do the disciples struggle to understand the significance of the loaves? Model answer. Despite witnessing miracles, the disciples often miss the deeper spiritual meanings. Their hearts are sometimes hardened or closed. They see the physical act but don't fully grasp its significance. Lesson for us: we, too, can miss the profound truths right in front of us. It takes openness and humility to truly understand Jesus' teachings. 6. What mission does the use of different baskets, Jewish and Gentile, convey? Model answer. Jesus uses different types of baskets for the leftovers. Jewish-style baskets, kophinos in chapter 6, these baskets symbolize the mission to the Jewish people, the original recipients of God's covenant. Gentile-style baskets, spiros in chapter 8, these baskets represent the mission beyond Israel, to the Gentiles. Jesus' love extends to all people, regardless of background. Inclusivity. The variety of baskets emphasizes that God's grace is for everyone. No one is excluded from the banquet of God's love. Let's explore the valuable lessons we can learn from Dr. Tim Gray's episode 8 on the mystery of the bread. God's abundant provision. The feeding miracles, where Jesus multiplies a small amount of food to feed thousands, reveal God's abundant provision. Even when our resources seem limited, God can multiply them beyond our imagination. Trust in his ability to provide. Eucharist, a profound connection. The feeding miracles foreshadow the Eucharist, communion. When we receive the Eucharist, we participate in a sacred meal where Jesus gives himself to us. It's not just bread and wine, it's his real presence. Lesson: approach the Eucharist with awe and gratitude. It's a personal encounter with Christ. Unity and inclusion. The 12 baskets of leftovers symbolize the regathering of the 12 tribes of Israel. Jesus' mission is inclusive, it's for everyone, regardless of background. Lesson: God's love extends beyond boundaries. We're part of a global family. Courage amid storms. Jesus walking on water during a storm teaches us courage. His words, "Take heart, I am, have no fear," remind us that his presence dispels fear. Lesson: Trust in Jesus even when life gets stormy. He's with us. Understanding beyond the physical. The disciples struggle to grasp the deeper meaning of Jesus' actions. Sometimes our hearts are hardened, preventing us from seeing spiritual truths. Lesson: seek understanding beyond the surface. Be open to God's revelations. Mission to all. The different baskets, Jewish style and Gentile style, represent Jesus' mission. He came for both Jews and Gentiles. Lesson: share God's love with everyone. No one is excluded. Remember, these lessons invite us to grow in faith, trust, and love. Let's apply them to our lives and walk with Jesus.
Started since March 11, 2024, on every Mondays at 8 p.m. You are invited to join us for an insightful presentation on Mark by renowned theologian Dr. Tim Gray. This virtual 14-part series, hosted via Zoom, will be followed by thoughtful reflection questions and engaging discussions. The next episode, 9. The Way of Discipleship. As Jesus makes his way to Jerusalem, 3 times he predicts his approaching passion. In response to the disciples' rejection of his words, Jesus works to heal their understanding both of his kingship and of the true nature of Christian discipleship. Will be held on Monday, May 6, 2024 at 8 p.m. To register, please give us your name and contact number to Janet Ong at +60 16 218 6784 or Raymond Irwan at +65 90606050 via WhatsApp or SMS. Don't miss this opportunity to enrich your understanding of the Gospel of Mark and strengthen your connection to our faith community. St. Lucy's Bible Study, an initiative of the Thanksgiving Ministry. Holy Rosary Church KL, Malaysia.
Thank you for viewing. May God bless you today and always.